Good afternoon. This is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding, here to discuss some of the risks and hazards for U.S. citizens, Americans who are considering purchasing a golden visa citizenship by investment in order to expatriate. There's a lot of bad information out there, a lot of misinformation, and unfortunately some taxpayers don't realize what they've done until it's too late, because trying to get back into the U.S. system can be difficult. So when it comes to golden visas, there's two types, right? There's citizenship by investment, residence by investment. We're going to focus on the latter, citizenship by investment. So when we're referring to golden visa today, that's what we're focusing on. The distinction, just so you know, with a citizenship by investment, you're buying foreign citizenship. In other words, you can purchase a foreign citizenship so that, let's say you want to expatriate and you don't have a second citizenship. It is required in order to expatriate, in the sense that the U.S. government typically will not approve your expatriation, renouncing your U.S. citizenship, unless you can prove that you already have a second citizenship. So you're not left stateless, it's called. Residence by investment is a little bit different. It's basically purchasing travel rights, residence rights from a foreign country. So taxpayer may want to travel, but the U.S. passport doesn't provide maybe visa waiver or other types of benefits that a different passport may have, that the waiver program that passport may have with the specific countries the taxpayer wants to travel. So they purchase it. You're not buying citizenship. It's not sufficient to have a residence by investment if you don't have second citizenship in order to expatriate from the U.S. You need second citizenship. Conceptually, taxpayers may want to purchase a golden visa for citizenship because they think they're going to live offshore and live this nomadic lifestyle where they can go from country to country and not have to pay any taxes anywhere. It doesn't work that way, right? Obviously, if it was that simple, then everyone would do it. But there's various safeguards in place by the U.S. government so that you can't just purchase a golden visa, give up your citizenship, go offshore, and that's the end of it. Foreign countries have treaties with other countries, and so they don't want that. And so let's kind of dive into what some of the risks are. So before you spend hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to purchase one of these thinking you're going to live tax-free, you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into. Okay, so first things first. The U.S. follows a worldwide income tax system for individuals. What that means is, if you're a U.S. citizen, a lawful permanent resident, or a foreign national who meets a substantial presence test, you are taxed on your worldwide income. If you're a U.S. citizen and you live in a foreign country and all of your income is earned in that country and is all foreign sourced, guess what? The U.S. still requires you to file a U.S. tax return, and you're still taxed on the income. Yeah, if there's foreign tax credits, you can use those to offset, but typically with these programs, it's in low tax jurisdictions. You may qualify for the foreign earned income exclusion for a certain amount of your earned income, but for taxpayers who are considering golden visas for the purpose of going offshore, it's not gonna vibe. It's not going to get you what you want, because you still have to file U.S. taxes. So in order to receive the benefits of living in a tax-free, low-tax jurisdiction as an individual earning income, you have to formally expatriate from the United States so that you are not a U.S. person for tax purposes any longer. The problem with that is, oftentimes taxpayers who are considering going offshore are doing it because they have significant wealth or income generating assets and they want to pay lower tax. But if you have a high net worth, more than $2 million, which for a lot of these entrepreneurs is not that much, or you earn a certain amount of income, net income average tax liability of more than, I think it's $200,000. It adjusts for inflation each year. The net worth test doesn't, but the net income average tax liability does. Then you're going to presumably have to pay an exit tax when you give up your citizenship. Depending on what the value is of your assets, that exit tax can be significant, and you may not recoup it just by living overseas and not having to pay U.S. tax. In addition, if you're covered, then when you try to give gifts back to your children who are U.S. persons, there's a 40% gift tax. So in order to, so when you see all these wonderful benefits about getting the golden visa, keep in mind, if you're a U.S. citizen, you still have to file taxes on your worldwide income. You have to formally expatriate, and you may presumably have a significant exit tax. The next thing is, a lot of people think they're going to go overseas because then they can get out of the way of the U.S. government. They won't know about the foreign accounts and assets and things they have, but it typically doesn't work that way, and I'm going to explain why. In order to qualify for most of these programs, citizenship by investment, the taxpayer has to invest a significant amount of money in that foreign country. In order to invest in that country, the taxpayer has to purchase funds, purchase bonds, purchase securities, open bank accounts. Well, it can take a significant amount of time for the taxpayer after acquiring the golden visa to actually complete the expatriation process, depending on which consulate they're going to go to, which country, how far back they are. So the taxpayer is going to have to actually report all of this foreign information on their U.S. tax return or multiple tax returns, depending on how long it takes the process to get to completion. So, in fact, you're not really hiding any information. You're actually exposing yourself to the government as to these foreign assets that you thought you were going to keep secret. And then third and very important is what happens when you don't want that foreign citizenship anymore. So, rose-colored glasses, right? People think, oh, I'm going to go offshore. I'm going to have my assets in country A. I'm going to have citizenship in country B. But guess what? It doesn't typically work that clean, right? A lot of these countries have income tax for residents once they've been living there for a certain amount of time. There may be a wealth tax. The fees for maintaining some of these foreign assets like offshore asset protection trusts, etc., can get very high. And the taxpayer goes, you know what? I don't really need this anymore. I want to cut the cord. The problem becomes some of these countries can make it difficult to give up the citizenship once you have it. There could be large fees. You may be required to default on some of the investments that you've made overseas. So it is important to note that while getting the citizenship may be simple, trying to get rid of it and getting your assets out of that country can be much more difficult. So if you're thinking about getting the golden visa for citizenship because you want to expatriate for tax purposes, which technically isn't a legitimate reason, but it's why most people do it, for this reason, right? So if you're going to go offshore and do it, there's a few things to consider. First, what are your goals? It could be a common situation. You may think that you're the only one, right? But it's very common. You worked hard, you worked your butt off, you made some money, you're making good money, and the IRS is taxing you, and you're thinking, well, if I go offshore, I don't have to pay these taxes. But you have to think, what's the ultimate goal, right? Once you know what the ultimate goal is, you have to decide what your foreign tax liability will be. It's easy to say, oh, this country has a zero tax jurisdiction, but are you going to expatriate? If you're not going to expatriate, or even if you are going to expatriate, where is the income being generated? Where are the assets being located? What are the treaties between the different countries that you're going to be living and keeping assets? And what's going to be your ultimate tax liability? Because if you're doing it for taxes only and you're not deriving a tax benefit, then what's the point other than paying these people 5 and 6 figures just to get you some citizenship? Once you've done this, then you can decide whether the golden visa is right for you. What we found with people that we've worked with who wanted to backtrack after starting the process with these other companies about getting it is, make sure you've lived overseas, lived in these countries, lived in whichever country you plan on staying, and then decide if it's really something you want for you, yourself, your children, your family. Maybe it is, but oftentimes it turns out not to be. Finally, a lot of people consider this golden visa situation because they're out of compliance for their U.S. reporting, and they think if they just cut the cord with the U.S., they can get away and not have to think about it, especially like accidental Americans and people like that. But you know what? Typically, taxpayers can get into compliance depending on what program that they use. They may have a small penalty. There may be a penalty waiver. We have a ton of free information available on our main website, our sub-websites, and our other expatriation-focused website, which is expatriationattorneys.com. You can always reach out and schedule a reduced fee initial consultation if it's appropriate to your matter, and it's something that we handle here. Again, my name is Sean Golding with Golding & Golding. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.